They thought a $400,000 fine would drown his voice, but retired Army officer Robert Hayes was about to unleash a storm that would flood the HOA's entire kingdom. When the HOA built a luxury lake on his family's land, he uncovered a conspiracy that would make them wish they'd never touched a shovel. Robert Hayes, a 65-year-old retired Army colonel, had seen his share of battles, but none prepared him for the war on his own doorstep. His 30-acre plot in Lakeside Estates, New England, was his fortress. A rugged terrain of forests, a small pond, and a cabin his grandfather had built in 1940 after returning from World War II. The land was a symbol of survival. His grandfather planted the woods during the Depression, his father stocked the pond during Vietnam, and Robert had maintained it through 3 tours in Afghanistan. It was where he proposed to his wife, Sarah, and where they raised their son before her death from illness 2 years ago. The cabin, with its stone fireplace and Sarah's old rocking chair, was Robert's sanctuary in retirement. Lakeside Estates had changed from a rural haven to a mega mansion's paradise, controlled by the Lakeside HOA under the tyrannical president Douglas Reed, a construction tycoon with a $15 million lakefront estate. Robert had ignored the HOA's petty rules, mandatory lawn maintenance, approved exterior colors, until a certified letter arrived in May 2025. The envelope, stamped with the HOA's platinum seal, felt like a grenade. He opened it on his porch, the pond's gentle ripple mocking the storm inside. The letter demanded a $400,000 fine for environmental violations tied to his pond, which the HOA claimed polluted their new $3 million artificial lake. The lake, a sparkling centerpiece with boat docks and fountains, had been constructed a year earlier on what they called HOA conservation land. The letter referenced a 2008 survey that redrew Robert's boundaries, shrinking his 30 acres to 12. The pond, a family treasure, was now unauthorized and had to be drained within 60 days, or his cabin would be seized. Robert's military instincts kicked in. He retrieved his grandfather's 1940 deed from a locked chest in the cabin, its ink faded but boundaries clear. 30 acres, including the land under the lake's main basin. He recalled the 2024 construction crews, their dredgers carving through what he thought was adjacent property. They'd claimed it was HOA land. Now the truth dawned. They'd stolen 18 acres, worth tens of millions, right under his nose. He called his son, Captain Tom Hayes, a current Army officer stationed in Virginia. Tom connected him to Major Lisa Kane, a military lawyer specializing in property disputes. Lisa arrived by plane, her uniform crisp. "This survey's a forgery, Colonel," she said, comparing the 2008 document to county records. The coordinates were manipulated, and the surveyor, E. Reed, was Douglas Reed's cousin, not licensed in New England. "This is systematic fraud," Lisa said. "The lake's on your land, and they're fining you to cover it up." She explained that HOAs like Lakeside often targeted veterans and elderly owners, using fake surveys to expand luxury features like lakes to inflate property values. Douglas Reed, with his construction empire, had likely orchestrated it to profit from rising condo sales. Lisa recommended hiring a surveyor to remap the land and filing a lawsuit to reclaim the 18 acres and void the fine. "It'll be ugly," she warned. "Reed has connections in the county." Robert nodded, his jaw set. Lisa contacted Sergeant Mike Larson, a surveyor with drone and radar tech. Mike arrived with a team, spending 14 days mapping every inch under suspicious HOA gazes. His findings were devastating. The 1940 deed was accurate, and Robert's 30 acres covered the lake's basin and part of the condo's boat docks. The 2008 survey was a fake, with altered coordinates and a forged signature. Mike's 70-page report valued the stolen land at $12 million.
Lisa filed the lawsuit, demanding the HOA drain the lake or pay rent for Robert's land, plus an injunction to stop further violations. The HOA's response was savage. Douglas's lawyer, Vivian Cole, countersued for sabotaging community amenities and emotional distress. They called the pond a health hazard and demanded its draining. HOA inspectors swarmed Robert's property, citing new violations. His forests were overgrown, his cabin's roof was non-compliant, and his dock needed modernization. One inspector even criticized his army flag as unapproved decor. Douglas visited Robert one evening, his yacht gleaming on the lake in the distance. "Sell us the remaining 12 acres for $600,000, he said, his smile predatory. "It's generous, considering the fine." Robert stood firm. "This land's my family's blood, Douglas. You stole it, and I'm taking it back." Douglas's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this," he growled, leaving. Threats followed, anonymous calls warning, "Drain the pond or drown in debt." Robert's savings dwindled, with $60,000 in legal fees in a month. Neighbors avoided him, fearing HOA retaliation. At night, he sat in his cabin, staring at Sarah's rocking chair, whispering, "I won't let them take it, love." Lisa warned the lawsuit could take years, draining his resources. But Robert, a colonel who'd led men through hell, had a plan. He contacted a local podcaster, Sam Rivera, known for exposing scandals on Ridge Revelations. Sam had 400,000 listeners, and his shows often went viral. Robert met Sam at his studio laying out the story: the forged survey, the stolen 18 acres, the $400,000 fine. Sam's eyes lit up. "This is explosive," he said. "Let's air it." The next day, Sam's podcast opened with a bang. Lakeside HOA stole a veteran's family land for their luxury lake, and now they're fining him $400,000 for a pond his grandfather stocked. Sam played audio clips of Robert's story, his voice emotional as he spoke of Sarah and his grandfather. Listeners flooded the lines, sharing HOA nightmares. "My HOA fined me $8,000 for a birdhouse. They're criminals." The podcast went viral, trending on Spotify and Apple Podcasts with #HazeLake. A local news channel picked up the story, filming Robert's pond and the HOA's artificial lake. A GoFundMe for Robert's legal fees raised $200,000 in days, with donations from veterans across the country. Comments flooded in. "HOAs are legalized mafia. Robert is a hero." A viral TikTok showed drone footage of the lake with Robert's deed boundaries overlaid, hitting 12 million views. The HOA panicked. They sent Robert a cease and desist letter, accusing him of slander and threatening a defamation lawsuit. HOA board members called emergency meetings, and Vivian Cole filed motions to suppress Mike's survey, claiming it was unreliable technology. But the public pressure was mounting. Lakeside residents began questioning Douglas's authority, and a few brave neighbors left notes of support at Robert's gate, one reading, "Keep fighting, Colonel, you're not alone." Robert's legal fees climbed to $80,000, and the stress was relentless. He barely slept, haunted by the thought of losing his family's legacy. One night he walked his land, the pond reflecting the moon. He remembered his grandfather's words, "This land is our fight." As a soldier, Robert had faced enemies head-on. This was no different, just a different kind of enemy. Lisa warned the lawsuit could take years, but Robert wasn't one to wait. He had an idea, bold and risky, to turn the tables on the HOA. It was something Douglas would never see coming, a move that could rally the entire town and force the HOA's hand. As Robert stood by his pond, watching the lights of the lake in the distance, he planned his next step, a public protest on the stolen 18 acres. He'd turn their luxury lake into a battlefield, not with weapons, but with people. The HOA thought they could intimidate a retired colonel. They were about to learn what happens when you poke a man with nothing to lose but his family's honor.
They thought their threats would silence his rebellion, but Robert Hayes turned their stolen lake into a protest war zone. When he uncovered a hidden bunker beneath his cabin, the secrets inside would make the HOA regret ever crossing a colonel. Robert Hayes stood on the edge of his 30-acre plot in Lakeside Estates, New England, his military boots planted firmly on the soil his grandfather fought for. The Lakeside HOA, led by Douglas Reed, had stolen 18 of his acres to build a $3 million artificial lake, fining him $400,000 for his family's pond, claiming it polluted their luxury centerpiece.
His 1940 deed and surveyor Mike Larson's report proved the land was his, exposing a forged 2008 survey tied to Douglas's cousin. Sam Rivera's podcast, Ridge Revelations, had pushed hashtag Hayes Lake to 12 million mentions, with a GoFundMe raising $200,000 for Robert's legal fight. But Douglas's cease and desist letters and anonymous threats, drain the pond or drown, loomed large. Now, with his lawsuit filed by Major Lisa Kane, Robert was ready to escalate. His plan, a Hayes Lake reclamation rally on the stolen 18 acres to shut down the HOA's lakefront. The rally was a calculated strike. Robert, with his son Tom and Lisa, organized 1,500 supporters, veterans, locals, and HOA victims on a Saturday morning in June 2025. They gathered on the lake's edge, blocking boat docks and condo access roads. Signs read, "Hayes Lake is stolen," and "End HOA tyranny." Veterans in uniform saluted Robert, chanting, "Colonel's land, Colonel's fight." Food trucks offered free coffee, and a local band played patriotic anthems. Sam Rivera live-streamed on Ridge Revelations, hitting 800,000 viewers. A viral TikTok of a veteran planting an American flag on the lake shore racked up 15 million views, with hashtag Hayes Lake trending globally. A news helicopter captured the chaos, and a national outlet ran, "Veterans Rally Paralyzes HOA's $3 million lake." Douglas Reed's HOA struck back. His lawyer, Vivian Cole, filed an emergency injunction to halt the rally, calling it a public safety hazard. They sent letters to lakeside residents threatening $2,000 fines for attending. Private security patrolled the lake, intimidating protesters. But the rally grew to 2,000 by noon, with supporters camping overnight. Robert stood on a makeshift stage, his voice steady. "This lake sits on my family's land, stolen by greed. We're taking it back." The crowd roared, and donations to the GoFundMe hit $250,000. Lakeside condo sales stalled as buyers fled the scandal, and the HOA stock dropped 10%. That night, Robert patrolled his property, unable to sleep. His flashlight swept over the cabin's basement entrance, a trapdoor he'd rarely opened since Sarah's death. Curiosity tugged at him. His grandfather had built the cabin during World War II, hinting at hidden defenses for tough times. Robert pried open the trapdoor, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. He called Tom and Mike, who joined him with heavy-duty flashlights. The stairs led to a concrete bunker, 20 feet underground, lined with rusted metal shelves. Inside were 1960s files, ledgers, letters, and maps detailing a scheme by the HOA's predecessor to annex land from veterans' families. One letter, signed by a C. Reed, Douglas's father, instructed a surveyor to adjust boundaries for a planned development. A map showed Robert's 18 acres marked for future acquisition. The bunker was a bombshell. Mike photographed the documents, and Lisa confirmed their authenticity with a historian, Dr. Ellen Park. The files revealed a 1965 payment of $50,000 to a county official to bury complaints about land theft. "This proves the HOA's been dirty for decades," Lisa said. Robert's heart raced. This wasn't just about his land, it was a multi-generational conspiracy. He remembered his grandfather's stories of fighting off developers in the 1950s. The bunker was their secret weapon, hidden for just this moment. Sam's next podcast, The Bunker That Buried the HOA, exploded online, hitting 1 million downloads in hours. He aired clips of Robert reading the 1960s letters, his voice thick with emotion. "My grandfather knew they'd come for our land. He left this for me to fight." The hashtag Hayes Bunker surged to 10 million mentions, with forums buzzing. "HOAs are a cartel. Robert's a legend." A viral Instagram reel showed drone footage of the bunker's entrance, captioned, "Veteran finds HOA's dirty secrets." It hit 18 million views. The GoFundMe climbed to $300,000, funding a forensic accountant to trace the 1965 payments. The HOA escalated their attacks. Vivian Cole demanded access to the bunker for structural inspections, claiming it was unstable. She accused Robert of forging the documents and filed a motion to seal the basement. Douglas sent a letter threatening to triple the $400,000 fine if the rally continued. Robert's legal fees hit $100,000, straining his savings despite the GoFundMe. Sheriff Jane Torres, a neutral figure, increased patrols around his cabin after reports of suspicious vehicles.
Robert found tire tracks near his pond, and one night, a brick crashed through his cabin's window with a note, "Stop now, or the lake takes you." Lisa prepared to present the bunker documents in court, arguing they voided the HOA's claim to the lake, but the injunction hearing loomed, and Vivian's team was relentless, claiming the rally endangered residents. Robert felt the weight of his grandfather's legacy, the bunker's secrets, his last stand. Sam warned that the HOA might destroy evidence if they access the bunker. "We need to go bigger," Robert said, his eyes steely. He planned to expand the rally into a lakeside liberation camp, turning the lake into a 24/7 protest zone. As the camp took shape, a shadowy figure emerged from the woods at dusk, dropping a sealed envelope at Robert's gate before vanishing. Inside was a grainy photo of the lake's construction, showing Douglas Reed shaking hands with a county official, and a note, "Check the lake's drain valve." Robert's pulse quickened. If he could find evidence there, it could end the HOA's empire. But with the hearing days away and threats closing in, he faced a choice: play it safe or risk everything to expose the truth.
They thought they could crush his rebellion with lawsuits and bricks, but Robert Hayes turned their lake into a symbol of defiance. When he cracked open the lake's drain valve, the secrets it spilled would flood the HOA's lies. Robert Hayes stood on the shore of the Lakeside Estate's $3 million artificial lake, his weathered hands gripping a wrench as the morning fog cloaked his 30-acre plot in New England. The Hayes Lake Reclamation Rally had grown into a full-blown movement, with 2,500 supporters camping on his stolen 18 acres, blocking the HOA's boat docks and condo access. His 1940 deed, the 1960s bunker documents, and surveyor Mike Larson's report proved the Lakeside HOA, led by Douglas Reed, had forged a 2008 survey to seize his land for their luxury lake. Sam Rivera's Ridge Revelations podcast and hashtag Hayes Bunker had hit 10 million mentions, with the GoFundMe at $300,000. But the HOA's threats, a brick through his cabin window, a tripled $400,000 fine, loomed large. A mysterious note pointing to the lake's drain valve ignited Robert's resolve. At 65, the retired Army colonel was ready to strike at the heart of the HOA's empire. The rally evolved into the Hayes Lake Freedom Festival, a 24/7 protest that paralyzed Lakeside Estates. By Sunday, 3,000 supporters filled the lakefront with tents, food trucks, and a stage where veterans shared HOA horror stories. Signs read, "Drain the HOA," and "Hayes Lake is ours." Sam's livestream hit 1.5 million viewers, with hashtag Hayes Freedom trending at 15 million mentions. A viral YouTube clip of a veteran planting a flag on the lake's dock, captioned "Colonel Hayes Fights Back," soared to 20 million views. News outlets descended, filming the festival's chaos and Robert's cabin, its broken window a testament to the HOA's desperation. The GoFundMe surged to $350,000, funding a forensic accountant to trace the bunker's 1965 payments. Robert, with his son Tom and surveyor Mike, followed the mysterious note's clue to the lake's drain valve, hidden in a concrete maintenance shed near the boat docks. Under cover of dawn, they pried open the shed, finding a rusted valve system controlling the lake's water flow. Inside, Mike discovered a sealed metal box bolted to the valve's base. With a crowbar, they opened it, revealing 1970s construction plans, permits, and a ledger listing $200,000 in consulting fees to a company tied to Douglas Reed's father. One document, a 1972 memo, instructed workers to bury boundary markers on Robert's land to hide the theft. "This is their smoking gun," Mike said, photographing every page. Lisa Kane, the military lawyer, confirmed the document's authenticity, linking them to a 1975 lawsuit where another veteran lost land to the HOA's predecessor. The festival erupted when Robert announced the find. "They built this lake on lies," he declared from the stage, holding up a photo of the memo. The crowd chanted, "Hayes, Hayes," as Sam's drone captured the scene, pushing hashtag Hayes Valve to 12 million mentions. A TikTok of the valve's box, set to a dramatic soundtrack, hit 25 million views, with comments like, "HOAs are done," and "Robert's a warrior." Lakeside condo sales plummeted, and the HOA's board faced a revolt from residents demanding transparency. A local news anchor called it the scandal shaking New England.
The HOA fought back with venom. Vivian Cole, Douglas's lawyer, filed a motion to seize the valve's documents, claiming they were stolen HOA property. Douglas hired a PR firm to smear Robert, labeling him a disgruntled veteran, causing economic chaos. They sent letters to festival attendees, threatening $5,000 fines for trespassing. Private security clashed with protesters, shoving a teenager holding a Hayes Lake sign. An incident caught on Sam's stream, sparking outrage with 18 million views. Sheriff Jane Torres increased patrols, warning Robert of escalating tensions. Then, a chilling act. Someone set fire to a shed on Robert's property, leaving a scorched warning, "Stop, or the cabin's next." Amid the chaos, a new ally emerged. Karen Martin, a former HOA accountant who'd quit in 2023, contacted Lisa after hearing Sam's podcast. Karen met Robert at the festival, her hands shaking as she handed over a USB drive. Douglas bribed county officials in 2022 to bury old surveys, she whispered. The drive contained emails between Douglas and a clerk discussing erasing the 1940 deeds records. Karen's testimony, aired on Sam's podcast, hit 2 million downloads, with hashtag HayesTruth trending. Lisa submitted the emails to the court, strengthening their case for the injunction hearing in 3 days. But the HOA wasn't done. Vivian filed a countersuit accusing Robert of environmental sabotage for inspecting the valve. Douglas appeared on local TV claiming the festival threatened community safety and demanding it shut down. Robert's legal fees hit $120,000, and the arson left him sleepless, guarding his cabin with the shotgun. He confided in Tom, "This isn't just about land, it's about honor." Tom, a captain who'd seen combat, nodded. "We fight to the end, Dad." Late Sunday, Robert received a text from an unknown number. "Check the bunker's back wall." His heart raced. The shadowy figure was back. He, Tom, and Mike returned to the bunker at midnight, their flashlights sweeping the concrete. Behind a rusted shelf, they found a hidden panel, concealing a small safe. Inside was a 1970 blueprint of the lake, marked with the secret drainage system under the HOA's clubhouse. A note read, "Flood their lies." Robert's mind spun. If he could access this system, he could drain the lake and expose the HOA's fraud to the world. But the hearing was days away, and the arsonists were circling. One wrong move could cost him everything. As the festival's lights blazed and the crowd chanted, Robert stood by the valve shed, the blueprint in his pocket. The HOA thought they could burn out a colonel. They were about to face a flood they couldn't stop. They thought an arsonist's flames could scare him off, but Robert Hayes was about to turn their lake into a graveyard of their lies. When he found a videotape in the HOA's secret drainage system, the truth it held would ignite a fire they couldn't extinguish. Robert Hayes crouched in the shadows of Lakeside Estate's $3 million artificial lake, his flashlight cutting through the pre-dawn mist as he navigated the hidden drainage system beneath the HOA's lavish clubhouse. The Hayes Lake Freedom Festival had swelled to 4,000 supporters, paralyzing the lakefront with tents and protests that blocked condo access. His 1940 deed, 1960s bunker documents, 1970s valve records, and Karen Martin's emails proved the Lakeside HOA, led by Douglas Reed, had stolen 18 of his 30 acres through a forged 2008 survey. Sam Rivera's Ridge Revelations podcast and hashtag HayesTruth had hit 15 million mentions, with the GoFundMe at $350,000. But the HOA's escalating attacks, arson on his shed, a tripled $400,000 fine, and a brick through his cabin window tested Robert's resolve. A 1970 blueprint found in a hidden bunker safe pointed to a drainage system under the clubhouse, and the retired Army colonel, now 65, was ready to unearth its secrets. The festival had transformed into the Truth March, a bold escalation where 4,000 supporters surrounded the HOA's glass-walled clubhouse, chanting "Drain the Lake" and waving signs. Sam's live stream hit 2 million viewers, with hashtag Hayes March trending at 18 million mentions. A viral TikTok of the march, showing veterans locking arms around the clubhouse, soared to 22 million views, with comments like "Robert's unstoppable" and "HOAs are toast." News outlets called it the uprising shaking Lakeside Estates. The GoFundMe climbed to $400,000, funding a forensic team to analyze Karen's emails, which linked Douglas to a 2022 bribe of $150,000 to a county clerk. Guided by the blueprint, Robert, Tom, and Mike Larson infiltrated the drainage system at 4 a.m., accessing it through a maintenance hatch near the clubhouse. The concrete tunnel, damp and echoing, stretched beneath the lake's foundation. At its end, they found a locked steel door marked "Restricted." Mike's bolt cutters snapped it open, revealing a small control room with rusted pipes and a dusty safe. Inside was a 1985 VHS tape labeled Lakeside Project. Robert's heart pounded. This could be the key to ending the HOA's reign. They rushed the tape to a tech expert, Rachel Kim, who digitized it in hours. The footage was explosive. A 1985 HOA meeting where Douglas's father, then president, discussed securing Robert's land with altered surveys and county leverage. A young Douglas, smirking, suggested burying evidence in the drainage system to avoid lawsuits. The tape named a bribed official, now a retired judge, and confirmed the 1970s payments from the valve documents. Lisa Kane, the military lawyer, called the tape a legal missile. She prepared to present it at the injunction hearing in 2 days, alongside the bunker documents, valve records, and Karen's emails. The festival stage became a rallying point, with Robert showing the digitized tape to the crowd on a massive screen. "This is their confession," he roared, the crowd erupting. Sam's podcast aired the audio, hitting 3 million downloads, with hashtag Hayes Tape trending at 20 million mentions. A YouTube clip of the tape's key moments, overlaid with drone shots of the march, hit 25 million views. Condo sales in Lakeside Estates collapsed, and the HOA's board faced resignations as residents demanded Douglas's ouster. The HOA's retaliation was ruthless. Vivian Cole, Douglas's lawyer, filed a motion to dismiss the tape as inadmissible and accused Robert of trespassing in the drainage system. Douglas hired private investigators to tail Robert, and security drones buzzed his cabin at night. Sheriff Jane Torres warned of credible threats after a second arson attempt scorched Robert's dock. The fire left a note, "Last warning, Colonel." Robert's legal fees hit $150,000, and the stress kept him awake, clutching his grandfather's 1940 deed. He confided in Tom, "They're scared because we're close." Tom, eyes fierce, replied, "Then we hit harder." A new shock came from within. Karen Martin, the former HOA accountant, revealed a bombshell. Deputy Mark Evans, Sheriff Torres's right-hand man, had been seen meeting Douglas at the clubhouse. Karen overheard Mark discussing containing the festival for a $50,000 payment. Lisa traced the deputy's bank records, confirming the bribe. Mark's betrayal stung. Torres had trusted him to secure Robert's property. When confronted, Mark claimed he was gathering intel, but his story faltered. Torres suspended him, but the damage was done. Someone had tipped off the arsonists. As the hearing loomed, the Truth March grew to 4,500, surrounding the clubhouse day and night. Sam's drone footage showed security retreating, overwhelmed by the crowd. But a new threat emerged. Late Tuesday, Mike detected seismic activity under the bunker, suggesting sabotage. Someone had planted explosives to collapse it and bury the evidence. Robert, Lisa, and Tom raced to secure the documents, moving them to a safe off-site. The festival became a fortress, with veterans patrolling the perimeter. Robert's voice cracked as he addressed the crowd. "They want to bury our truth. We won't let them." At midnight, another note arrived at Robert's gate, slipped by the shadowy figure. "The judge knows. Expose him."
The retired judge from the 1985 tape, now a county influencer, was set to attend the hearing. If Robert could confront him with the tape, it could topple the HOA's last defense. But with explosives under the bunker and a traitor in the sheriff's office, the stakes were deadly. As the march's chants echoed, Robert gripped the blueprint, planning his final move, a risky play to flood the drainage system and force the truth into the open. They thought they could bury his evidence in flames and lies, but Robert Hayes drained their empire with one turn of a valve. When he faced the corrupt judge in court, the truth he unleashed would drown the HOA's legacy forever. Robert Hayes stood in the packed county courthouse in Lakeside Estates, New England, clutching the 1985 VHS tape that exposed decades of the Lakeside HOA's fraud. The Truth March had grown to 5,000 supporters, encircling the HOA's glass-walled clubhouse and paralyzing their $3 million artificial lake. His 1940 deed, 1960s bunker documents, 1970s valve records, and Karen Martin's emails proved the HOA, led by Douglas Reed, had stolen 18 of his 30 acres. Sam Rivera's Ridge Revelations podcast and hashtag Hayes Tape had hit 20 million mentions, with the GoFundMe at $400,000. But the HOA's attacks, arson, a tripled $400,000 fine, Deputy Mark Evans' betrayal, and a bomb threat under the bunker had pushed Robert to the edge. A note urging him to expose the judge from the 1985 tape set the stage for a final showdown. At 65, the retired Army colonel was ready to end the war for his family's land. The injunction hearing was a battlefield. Lisa Kane, Robert's military lawyer, presented the tape, bunker documents, valve records, and Karen's emails, arguing the HOA's 2008 survey was forged, and the lake sat on Robert's stolen 18 acres. The tape played on a courtroom screen, showing Douglas's father in 1985 admitting to altered surveys and a young Douglas suggesting burying evidence. The crowd gasped as the retired judge, Harold Grayson, named in the tape, sat in the gallery, his face pale. Lisa called Karen to testify, who detailed Douglas's 2022 bribe of $150,000 to a county clerk. Rachel Kim, the tech expert, verified the tape's authenticity, and Mike Larson's survey confirmed the 1940 deed's boundaries. Vivian Cole, Douglas's lawyer, scrambled, claiming the tape was fabricated and the injunction hearing a public nuisance. But the evidence was overwhelming, and Grayson's presence rattled her. Outside, the Truth March swelled, with supporters chanting, "Justice for Hayes." Sam's live stream hit 3 million viewers, and hashtag Hayes Victory trended at 25 million mentions. A viral YouTube video of the march, showing veterans saluting Robert's cabin, soared to 30 million views. News networks broadcast the hearing live, calling it the trial that could end HOA tyranny. The GoFundMe reached $500,000, funding a private investigator to track Grayson's financial ties. Condo sales in Lakeside Estates were frozen, and the HOA's board collapsed as 3 members resigned. Douglas made a desperate move. Hours before the hearing's verdict, his security team attempted to access the bunker, claiming safety inspections. Sheriff Jane Torres, now wary after Mark's betrayal, blocked them, arresting 2 guards for trespassing. But the bomb threat loomed. Mike's seismic sensors confirmed explosives under the bunker wired to a remote detonator. Robert, Tom, and a bomb squad defused them at dawn, finding a device linked to a burner phone. Torres traced it to a contractor tied to Douglas, and the evidence was rushed to the court. In a bold move, Robert decided to act on the 1970 Blueprint's drainage system. With Mike's expertise, they accessed the clubhouse's control room at midnight, turning the lake's main drain valve. Water surged out, exposing buried boundary markers from the 1940 deed, etched with Hayes' property. Drone footage captured the receding lake, revealing the markers to 5,000 marchers. The crowd roared, and Sam's stream hit 4 million viewers, with hashtag HayesFlood trending globally. A TikTok of the draining lake captioned "The Truth Rises" hit 35 million views. The markers were photographed and submitted to the court, sealing the HOA's fate. The judge ruled in Robert's favor, voiding the $400,000 fine, restoring his 18 acres, and ordering the HOA to pay $12 million in damages for the stolen land. Grayson, exposed by the tape, resigned from his county role hours later, facing a criminal probe for his 1985 bribe. Douglas was indicted for fraud, bribery, and arson, his $15 million estate seized for evidence. Vivian withdrew her motions, and the HOA dissolved its board, with residents electing a new, transparent leadership. The lake was drained fully, revealing more forged markers, and Robert's land was restored, including his family's pond. The Truth March became the Hayes Victory Festival, with 6,000 supporters celebrating on the reclaimed 18 acres. Volunteers rebuilt Robert's scorched dock and shed, planting new trees to honor his grandfather. Sam's podcast aired a finale, The Colonel Who Drained the HOA, hitting 5 million downloads. Robert stood on the festival stage, holding his 1940 deed and the 1985 tape, his voice steady. "This was for my family, for every veteran, for every homeowner they tried to break." The crowd cheered, and hashtag Hayes Legacy trended at 30 million mentions. A final twist came days later. The shadowy figure, revealed as a retired surveyor who'd worked for Douglas's father, contacted Robert. He'd left the notes, driven by guilt for forging surveys in the 1970s. His testimony led to more indictments, dismantling the HOA's old network. Robert walked his land, the pond reflecting the stars, and whispered to Sarah's memory, "We did it, love." His cabin, once threatened, stood proud, a symbol of resilience. The festival ended with a veteran's salute, and Robert donated half the $12 million to a fund for HOA victims. Lakeside Estates became a model for reform, with Robert as his unlikely hero. The colonel, who'd fought wars abroad, had won his greatest battle at home, proving no empire could bury a man's truth.